Anyone who lives in the southwest of New Mexico can tell you about the story of the Chupacabra. I will say it is more than an urban legend because there has been so many sightings and even photo and video evidence of the creature. The Chupacabra is a rabid, dog-like creature and could or could not be the size of a bear, but this creature definitely has spikes on its back and glowing eyes. Stories go that it could also fly if it wants to, but one thing I do know. This creature will suck the blood from the neck of your pets, livestock and even other wildlife. The Chupacabra was first spotted in 1996 back in Puerto Rico and eyewitnesses dubbed the creature as the goat sucker. It has been a steady trope across Central America, reaching a heat in Mexico and the Southwest over the 2 decades, with New Mexico being most of the source of the sightings. However, now that I have told you the story of the Chupacabra, its first sightings, what it looks like and where it came from, this story is about how my father, who owned a farm down in New Mexico, he raised several animals down on his farm, but the one animal he raised more than any other was the goat. He just loved the animal. I still don't know why to this day, but one thing I will admit is on how interesting these animals was. If anyone ever took the time to study goats, then they would know. I would love watching when my father would go to the field and they all would come running to him for their feed or even for a fuss. It was too amazing on how high they could jump too. Anyway, one day in the morning light when my father had his breakfast and got ready, he went out for the daily routine of feeding the animals. He went to the cows first and fed them their hay, next to the pigs and gave them slop. We all know how pigs will eat just about anything these days. His last stop was the goats. However, because the goats lived in a large field, he would have to call them over. I can't believe myself that he actually trained the goats to come to him with a single whistle. I must admit, it was a sight to behold. Watching them all come running, it was like the world's biggest carpet running towards you. My dad looked on as the goats came running for their morning feed, but that morning there was something wrong. He decided to count the goats as he kept around 150 of them. He counted over and over but always came up 2 goats short. He started to panic a little but then remembered that they must be up to the field somewhere and decided to take a look a little later in the day after he had completed all his daily tasks. He still had to clean out the pigs, clean out the horses and also give them their feed. There was also the chickens to feed too. So many animals with so little time. Our farm also grew food too, sweet corn and wheat. So he had to go out and miss the fields so the crop wouldn't get eaten. It was into the evening when my father had finished all his chores for the day. When he got back to the house, he decided to have his dinner and then would go out and recount the goats again to see if those missing 2 had turned up. After dinner, he went and got his ATV, as I had stated before. The field was quite large and would have taken him into the night while looking and counting the goats. Lucky thing he had spray-painted numbers onto the goats to make things easier. He went up into the field and started driving around looking for all the goats. They were scattered all over the field here and there. It was awkward, to say the least, but he managed to round them up into one of the corners to count them. Still again, he came up missing 2 goats. This time he managed to find out what numbers were missing. Number 10 and number 99 it seemed, a female and a male. My dad looked toward me and told me that they must have jumped the fence. They are after all, quite good at jumping but never traveled too far from the fence. We still had about an hour of sunlight before the sun went down. We both decided to canvass around the edge of the fence to see if we could see them on the other side and to get them back in if they were. We did find the goats however, but it wasn't what we expected. They were outside of the fence but the 2 goats were now dead, torn apart. We knew that this would be predators that did this, but what another thing we noticed and was very strange, to say the least. There were 2 puncture wounds on the neck of both of the goats. It looked like something had come onto the field, killed the goats and dragged them into the woods behind the field and they just sucked all their blood. We both had no idea what this could be, as this was the first time this had ever happened to us, as at the end of the day, vampires don't exist. My dad had some trail cams back in the house and so decided that tomorrow morning he would go and put up the camera, as there was now a trail left by some sort of animal. The next morning my father got up extra early just so he could put up those trail cams. However, when he was heading to the woods through the field, he noticed a large amount of fur around a pool of blood. It seems that whatever creature was attacking the livestock had struck again. This time it was serious, and this problem had to be dealt with quickly before it completely wipes out all of the livestock and even moves on to the rest of the animals on the farm. He got to the woods and put up about 5 cameras around the area. He really needed to catch whatever animal was killing our livestock. He then went back and started his daily routine with the farm until the evening, when he came back for dinner. The next morning, again he got up early to go and get his cameras and see if he had caught anything on camera. However, on his way to the camera, he noticed that again one of his goats had been slaughtered. This was now beyond serious and needed to be stopped. He quickly arrived at the woods to collect his camera. Again around the area was the carcass of his goats with blood and fur all over. He quickly gathered all 5 of his cameras, and as quickly as he came, he went back. As soon as he got back, he could not wait to get the picture of the trail cameras. He opened them one by one and took a look at the pictures. The first 3 only caught the usual stuff, rabbits, birds, that kind of stuff. However, the 4th and 5th camera caught something we both had never seen before. We both looked at each other, and I know what he was thinking. A new species, maybe, we both thought. The picture the camera had caught didn't have any pictures of the whole creature but only parts. There was, however, a high creature with spikes down his back and red glowing eyes, even in the daytime. From the look of the pictures on the camera, it seemed that this beast was stalking the farm before attacking the goats. We did, however, see the goats being dragged out and using the size of the goats to compare to the beast. This is how we knew how big this beast was. My dad, now with this look of absolute hate on his face, went to the gun cabinet, unlocked it and grabbed all of his guns, his shotgun, a rifle and a handgun. He then proceeded to load all his guns. I knew what his plans were and decided that I want to be a part of this. I grabbed the rest of the guns, loaded them up and gave a nod to my father. We both wanted whatever this creature was dead. We both waited till dusk, as we both knew this was the time this creature started its hunt. As soon as dusk hit, we both got onto the ATV and headed out to the spot in our ghillie suits awaiting for this beast. Now at this time, we could hear the owls, crickets and more. Because of this we knew that there was no predator lurking around. I had no idea how long it would be, but like my dad, I was determined to catch this beast. Thinking back to the night, I must have fallen asleep, as I cannot remember much but waking up to a click of my father preparing his shotgun. I looked around confused and dazed, but then it hit me. There was no sound in the woods. Seems that predator was either in the area or on its way here. About 20 minutes later, I could hear like footsteps in the area. What gave it away was branches being broken under the foot of the predator. I took out my rifle and reloaded to make sure there was a round in the chamber ready to fire. We waited and about 10 minutes later, we could see the silhouette of a creature making its way through the bush. We both took aim and waited for the creature to be in our crosshairs. It's now time. We could see the creature in the crosshairs. We took aim and fired at the beast. I must admit, it was a big and mighty beast. We emptied all our clips into him. We both had our handguns, both empty. The beast was now dead and our livestock safe. We both got up and took a look at the creature. It was like nothing I had seen before. Even my father knew nothing of it either. We decided to put the creature on ice to send off for testing. All we know from the test was, this was a new creature, a hybrid of sorts, but what they couldn't figure out was what creatures it was related to. The creature now lays in the museum stuffed for all to see.